as a healer, I'm very, very conscious of my emotions. If I trace that, okay, there is something that I'm feeling that, is making me uncomfortable, I heal out of it. One thing that I haven't healed from yet is my mom's death. It's been 2 years, but so that's exactly what this entity poked in me to bring my vibrations down so that she can overpower me.
When you ask most guys about what's the scariest form of a ghost that they're afraid of, they'll say like an old lady, like in Darna Zaruri Hai.
I know. Because probably that is the picture that has been put in the mind since childhood. Ki, it's always the female entity and, the Daravna kind and the old lady with long nails or whatever. I mean, that's what's fed subconsciously. So by default, people get scared of.
We've hosted the paranormal investigator Sarabjit Mohanty on the show multiple times. This is the first episode with his partner during his adventures. This is a conversation with the psychic Pooja Vijay. What does that even mean? What does it mean to be a psychic? What's her world like? What have been some of her experiences? How did she even unlock her psychic powers? That's what this episode's about. This is another horror special of the Ranveer Show coming at you. Pooja Vijay. It's a conversation with a psychic. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Do you like my heavy voice or do you like this voice?
This is better.
Okay. What defines the word psychic the best according to you? I think you're publicly known as a psychic. I don't think that there's too many people who publicly are okay saying that they're psychics. They also say that people with psychic capabilities are actually very much present in society in a much more frequent manner than many of us think. But people don't come out publicly and say so.
Right.
So firstly, welcome to the show. Welcome
Thank you
to
so
TRS.
much for calling me. It's an absolute honor and pleasure being here.
No, I think the audience is going to learn from you in detail today, especially all these 8th standard kids who watch these episodes to get scared. I think they're actually going to learn a lot today. So I want to ask you about what the word psychic really means.
Okay, so technically, if I try to explain, it's basically tapping into a sixth sense or getting information that goes beyond your 5 senses, the 5 physical senses. So now, since you mentioned that, there are psychics who are in the society, but they don't want to come out as psychics. Let me spill some beans here. Every human being is a psychic.
It's a dormant ability?
No. So it's like, okay, if I have to go to explain here, little technical, so that, it's easily understood by the masses. We all have a physical body, right? Every human being has a physical body, and every human being also has subtle bodies, right? So it's not, this is what's seen. The subtle bodies are not seen.
Yeah. I think according to Indian scriptures, it's Sthul Sharir, Karan Sharir, and Sukshma Sharir.
Yes.
It basically means 3 layers of body.
Yes, the etheric body, the mental body, the emotional body. So we have many subtle bodies, right? So how we have the physical body and the physical senses, the 5 senses are very visible. The eyes, ears, nose, and they are visible. But running parallel to these 5 senses are the subtle senses, which are not as visible, but they are in the subtle body. And to be more specific, are governed by the chakras.
Okay.
So if we say the physical vision or the eyes, the psychic sense that's running parallel to it is clairvoyance. So every human being has 2 types of visions, physical vision and a psychic vision, which we know as clairvoyance. So it's like our physical vision is limited. It can tap into certain spectrums. But when I talk about clairvoyance, it has no limit.
Okay, hold on. I gotta pause this for a minute, break it down a little bit.
Okay.
You got to explain the word chakras to people who don't understand
Okay,
that.
okay.
That's one.
Hmm.
Secondly, the thing you said about our human eye is only capable of seeing certain amount of the
Spectrums.
light spectrum.
Yeah.
This is science. You
Yeah.
can only see Vibgyor, the colors of the
Correct. So
rainbow.
certain spectrums are which are caught by the human eye, but there are many more spectrums which humans can't tune to. But sometimes, there are animals tuning to different
Yeah.
frequencies which humans can't see.
It's effectively like animals being able to see colors that humans can't see.
Exactly. So same way, just because human can't see certain things doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So the clairvoyants who are using their psychic vision are basically tapping into these frequencies, which normally a human won't be able to tap into.
Hmm.
Okay, so which includes seeing spirits, ghosts, or even getting premonitions or things like that. Same way with every, I would say, physical sense, there is a parallel psychic sense running. Like hearing, what runs parallel to it is clairaudience. So there are people who can hear wavelengths which a normal ear can't catch. Same way, there are many more psychic abilities connected again to the physical senses and even beyond.
Okay.
Like there is clairsentience, which allows a person to sense things which normally a human may not be able to. And empaths, the empaths who can sense the feelings of others, or they can even absorb the feeling of others like their own. So they are clairsentients.
Uh, the reason I want to keep having conversations like this on my podcast is honestly because I've had experiences in my own life. I've once dated someone where I was in a very nice, healthy relationship with that person. And only 2-3 months into dating, she told me that she's also an empath. And she didn't say it openly, but I feel like she had some kind of psychic abilities also.
Yeah.
So I was telling her about my relationship with my father and how it's been a little strained growing up and how we're trying to make peace with each other at this point. And then she just held my hand really tightly, squeezed it, and then she started crying. Okay, and I'm like, what is happening here? Got really scared. And then she held my hand and she's like, your father is in a lot of pain for XYZ reason and he's in this place. And I'm not going to say that XYZ reason publicly. He said he's in a lot of pain, something going on. I got really scared. Okay. And I started chanting Hanuman Chalisa in my head about what's going on here. I immediately called my mum and I asked her that, is he in this particular place and is something wrong? And she's like, yeah, he's had an injury or something.
Wow.
I was just like, okay, what is happening here? And that's why I realized empaths are real.
Yes.
Lots of people have psychic abilities that you don't know of.
Yes. And there's one more major one, important one. And why I want to mention this is because I remember in Sarbajit's podcast, you mentioned about you getting downloads of information and questions that you were asking. That's known as claircognizance. Where you get downloads, it's like you don't know where the information is coming from, but it's coming to you.
And that could be creativity or just answers.
Anything, any information that you have not been exposed to with your 5 physical senses, basically.
Okay.
So every human being has the physical body and every human being has subtle body. So by default, every human being has psychic abilities. But what happens is, and yes, every child has enhanced psychic abilities. Every single child. So if a child is telling that, I have imaginary friends, they probably have one.
Okay. The reason I'm interrupting you so much in this intro conversation is because I think you're talking at a slightly high level as compared to what the audiences are used to. Which is why I'll keep stopping you and I'm gonna ask you about chakras again. What are chakras?
So these are the energy centers. And, so it's like our body is filled with chakras. We are energy beings, right? But there are 7 main chakras, which are the main energy centers of our body. So these are the ones that govern our physical, mental, emotional. So these are like the main points to in very simple terms. So now, since I'm mentioning about the psychic abilities, they are directly governed again by the chakras. And as I said, everybody is a psychic. Okay, let me give a small example here. Maybe that it becomes easier to understand. Suppose there's a small child, and as I said, that every child has enhanced psychic abilities. Okay, now the chakras are fully active and the child is sensing things, seeing things, but they never mention about it because for them it's normal. It's like you won't go and tell somebody, hey, you know what? The sun rose from the east today. you just know, and you don't want to go out of the way discussing about it. So for children, it's just, they just feel that, yeah, everybody can. So they don't go out of the way talking about it unless something unusual happens, which had happened with me. I'll come to that later. So what happens is that, let's take an example that suppose there's this child who has all these enhanced abilities, and now the child is growing and is exposed to some kind of environment where this child is getting judged. And this child is hearing things like, you are such a useless person, and you are not good enough, and you can't do this much, and you are just good for nothing. Now what's happening? That's literally attacking the self-worth of the child, and the chakra that governs self-worth is the solar plexus, that's right in the stomach. So what's happening? Because of the words that this child is constantly exposed to, the chakra is getting blocked. Now, another example, this child grows a little, and somewhere in the teenage, now this child is very creative, wants to probably get into art and music, and he's a genius in that.
Are you talking about me? No, go on.
And suppose, this child is being forced to maybe take up engineering.
Sorry, go on.
Okay, so what's happening is the wings of this child are being cut, and the natural flow of this child's energy is being taken to another direction. Now, the chakra that governs creativity is the sacral chakra. So what happens? This child is forced to go into a direction that he doesn't belong to. So that's blocking his sacral chakra. So as the child grows, because of the various experiences and everything that he comes along, the chakras begin to get blocked, and eventually the subtle body is getting affected. So as the child is growing, the psychic abilities are already tuning down.
Okay, I'm going to give a bit of tiny perspective here on chakras. There was actually a fantastic anime called Avatar: The Last Airbender. One of the episodes was about chakras, but they've explained chakras for children in a very simple way.
I have seen that. It's beautiful.
You have something called your cerebrospinal axis, which is like the central part of your body. There are important points along the central part of your body.
Yes.
Beginning with your reproductive organs, your intestines, your stomach, your heart, your thyroid gland in your throat, your pineal gland in your third eye. And they say that the seventh chakra is above your head. It's outside your body.
So how it goes is, so the 7 chakras are the root chakra, that's at the bottom of the spine. Then the second is the sacral, which is approximately 2 inches below your navel. Then the solar plexus, that is approximately 2 inches above your navel. The heart chakra, the throat chakra, the third eye, and the crown.
Yeah.
So the basic 7 chakras. So the day-to-day activities and the kind of environment this child was exposed to is now what's happening. It's blocking its chakras, the child's chakras.
Yeah.
So the psychic senses are automatically going down. So as an adult, the child doesn't even know that something like psychic abilities exist because it's already gone down. And that's what is happening with majority of humans. That, they are just losing the connect with their actual inner self. They are losing who they truly are. And something that they are born with just tones down.
Yeah, I think that age 9 or 10 to about, I would say 40 or 50 is actually a dark period in a human's life. And it's the period of life where society kind of just breaks you down, kills your dreams, puts shit inside your body, puts intoxicants.
Absolutely. But the good news is that it's reversible. You can undo all of it. Now, again, the same child. Suppose this child thinks that, okay, I'm done with this mess. I need to find my true self. I need to get aligned to my best version. Begins to meditate. Begins a spiritual journey. Begins to heal his inner child.
Does ayahuasca. Sorry, go on.
So he's undoing all the things that he was exposed to. What happens? His chakras begin to get unblocked. I'm sure you would have seen a difference between before you started meditating and after you started meditating, right? So that's how it goes. So everything starts getting unblocked and he starts getting tuned and the psychic senses start getting aligned again.
Yeah, okay. The very modern urban guy version of this from me was that I let go of a lot of pain in those meditations.
Yes.
Especially the early meditation. Lots of tears.
Very important because see, unless you let go of your pain and unless you let go of, the things that you're holding on to within you, your chakras are going to stay blocked.
Okay. My question then is, why do there exist people like you who go through that same societal life in urban metros and still remain psychics?
No, I won't say I was always a psychic. It went up and down for me. Okay, so coming to me, and if I see my background, yes, I was born with enhanced psychic abilities like everyone else. And there was a little different thing that happened with me is what during the first 10 years of my life, I remembered my past lives.
Okay.
So my parents have narrated some bizarre stories which I used to speak, and some of them they validated when they confirmed that okay, she remembers her past lives, which toned down on its own when I turned around 9 or 10. When that toned down, what happened for me? Something else started flaring up. I started getting premonitions.
What is that?
Premonition is where you come to know what's happening in the future. Initially it was mild. Now this, I was in my teenage. Initially it was mild, and it's okay till you are getting premonitions, or you are just maybe cracking some questions that you're going to get in the examination, and you actually get that. Or maybe just telling a friend that this person is going to cheat on you, and you actually save your friend from. That's fine. But it was taking a different route where I started getting premonitions which were not very welcoming. I got a premonition of my mom's accident. Okay, so that was the, I mean, I would say that was one episode that really shook me. It changed my life because that was the time I realized that, wow, I mean, what's happening with me? I tried telling my mom. It was, I remember around 11 days before she actually met with an accident, I told her that, Mom, I don't feel good about something, especially connected to her. And I was in the hostel that time. I was not even home. So she told me everything is fine. Don't worry. I'm fine and everything. And then some days after that, she tells me that Pooja, you know what? I'm just going to Delhi. Nainital is actually that's where my grandparents stayed. So she said that I'm going to Delhi. I'm going to see grandparents. I'll visit them at Nainital and I'll be back. And I had my examinations due, so she knew I would be in the hostel for some time. And that is when I just choked. I was like, Mom, don't go. She's like, I'm fine. I have, your mama is there and everyone is there. So I'll be fine. Don't worry. I said, no, don't go. But that was the time I myself was not taking myself seriously because I myself was not sure whether it's my mind playing games or whether it's actually something that I'm feeling. But I just told her. So she said, don't worry, I'll be fine. And she went. And then, she actually meets with an accident on her way from Delhi to Nainital. It was a head on collision with a truck. She was saved, of course, but people who were actually seeing the car were like that it's impossible that someone would survive this. She was on bed rest for 6 months, and that incident totally shook me. And I was like, no, I don't want this. Whatever this is this is uncomfortable, and I don't want it. I am not ready for it.
How old were you?
19.
Okay.
So I it continued, and I kept showing it off. I kept, because even if I tried to talk to somebody about it, no one was getting it, that what I was going through. And I was not getting a proper help, no answers to whatever, why was this happening with me? Because by that time, I had realized that it was happening more with me than anyone else. Like, if I talk to my friends, do you feel the same? They are like, no. So then I was like, wow, okay, this is happening only with me. So I was figuring a lot of things out, but I was not at all comfortable with the entire feeling.
What other premonitions were you getting in this phase?
A lot of they were small. They were not very
Okay.
huge. Like, they were bearable. But this was something that left a huge scar on me. It was I was in fear. I was in fear. And I was like, no, I'm not ready for this. So things, because I stopped acknowledging it, there was a time where I stopped feeling or sensing anything much. Like, it was there, but I just kept showing it off that I don't want this, I don't want this. And the finals, because this was the final thing that happened, I would say that that was a wake-up call for me, because this is something that I had signed up for. So the universe is like that, we need to give her a whack. When my house got haunted. So there were things happening with me from the very beginning, but this spirit thing was something for the first time that I was
It
experiencing.
it got haunted, as in it was the same house you were living in,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
something.
yeah. For years, I have like from my 10th standard, I have lived in the same house and I'm still in the same house.
Did you buy a doll or something? Sorry.
Nothing. So I'll tell you what happened. So I was in the US for 5 years and then I moved back. And so I have two boys. Okay. So it was my two boys, me, my mom, and dad in the house. And it was a very difficult phase that we were going through because my dad was battling cancer. So we all were like, in a very low state of life. So this one fine, and okay, my mom and me, we both have been teachers. Like, I come from a teaching background. My mom has taught all her life. So above our house was the classroom where, there was the board and all. So my older son, he was 6 back then. He just went with his friend and he's like, I'll just play and come. I said, go play. So they were just writing something on the board and all. They both come running down, fear in their eyes. And my son tells me that, Mama, I heard a very weird noise, a sound. I said, Acha. He said, someone told me get out. I said, it must be some child playing a trick on you because students keep coming and going. He said, no, I checked everywhere. It was a very manly voice. And twice we were told to just get out. And the friend was also like that, yeah, Didi, it was a very scary voice. And then we came running down. I said, okay, let me come. I went up with him and I looked, there was nobody around that who could have, I thought is someone playing a trick or something. There was nobody around. But when I was up, I didn't hear anything. I came down anyway. I told him, don't worry, just forget it and you play down, don't go up. It was running on my mind though. But that very night, what happened is that, so how it was that, me and my boys were in one room and my parents were on the other side of the house. So they usually slept early and my dad was unwell. So, they both used to go to bed early. So I was putting my kids to sleep. They slept off. And then I started hearing knocks on my door. And I was like, is this my mind playing tricks because of what my son just shared in the evening? Then I hear chairs moving outside in the drawing room. Then I start hearing footsteps. And I was like, no, this is, and I was really scared. I was trying to sleep. I just, put the quilt on me. I tried to sleep. And between 2 to 3, my younger son, who was around 2 that time, he gets up, howling, crying, with his eyes tightly closed, and he's pointing towards one corner of the room. Mama, bhar. That's all he out. That's all he's telling me. Mama, out. So I'm like trying to wake him up, and he refused to open his eyes. All got to know that he's pointing towards a particular corner of the room, and he's telling me to move out of the room. So I just took him. I was scared to actually go out also because I was hearing noises there. I was hearing voices there. My child is pointing towards, one of the corners of the room and he's asking me to get out. I was like in a dilemma. But I took my children and I just went out. He made me just sit there. He just didn't let me lie down. I remember I was just taking him in my lap and he fell asleep then. But I was so scared because I knew there is something happening. I could hear things happening, but I couldn't see anything. Anyways, it was like, we woke up. I barely slept. I was sitting and sleeping basically. So we woke up the next day. The day was fine, but as soon as, it was evening, my fear used to start going up because I was like unsure what's happening because I could sense there is something, but I was not sure of what's happening. The same thing repeats the next night. Between 2 to 3, the younger one gets up. And it was so weird. He's sleeping, he would just, with closed eyes, he would get up and he'll point towards that side of the room. I'm like, no, this is not done. So I tried changing his direction. It got weirder because even if I changed his direction, he would point behind with his closed eyes.
What?
That really freaked me out. And I was like, no, 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 no. I need help. There is something that's not right. And I mean, it was I mean, it was bad. It was bad. My younger son was uncomfortable during the day, and my younger son was uncomfortable during the night. And it was like the entire day I was in fear. I was not able to share this with my parents initially because I didn't want to bother them more. Because as it is, my dad was battling cancer. I didn't want to, but then I was like, no, maybe I need to tell my mom because we need help. And I didn't want them to get affected because I asked them, I asked my neighbors indirectly. No one was feeling anything because I thought maybe it's like, if others are also feeling it, maybe we can get a collective help or something. But no one's feeling anything. So I started seeking help, but that was another that's another story because most of the people didn't believe me. They were like, it's probably your mind playing tricks, but I knew what was happening with me. So the ones who were believing me didn't know how to help me. Ranveer, I remember it was 2 months of trauma that I went through. One more thing, yeah, oh God. One more thing that happened was there was this day, I was sitting in the bedroom with both my boys. They were just doing something. So we had this window AC. And there's this socket next to the window AC. Right in front of me, that window, the socket just caught fire. It just went in flames. I grabbed both of them, ran out, and I called the electrician. I'd asked him to check because I said, just right now, come and check what's happening. So he checked everything and he's like, ma'am, everything is fine. I don't see even the wiring looks fine. The AC looks fine. I don't figure out what's the reason behind this fire. And I was like, wow, this is getting intense. And then, back then we had a house help. So he was with us for a long time. He was there with us for 11 years. He has never complained, but he, for the first time, told me that, Didi, I feel like, he used the word upri saya. I feel that there is something dark and I'm not comfortable sleeping at night. So
What is
all
Uprisaya?
these were the words he used. Upri sai is like some higher energy which is dark. Some he used these words. So I said no, I have to get immediate help. But it took me 2 long months to actually find help. I did find a psychic. One of my family friends helped me. I said, I don't care. I just need help. And I was not wanting to go to any random person because I knew that, this is one space where you can get exploited. And I didn't want to get into that zone. So I was looking for someone who is like, who understands and gives me an explanation of what's happening and why it's happening and stuff. So the I found a psychic, and as soon as he enters my house, he's telling me that, ma'am, you know what? There are 6 entities here.
Six.
6 entities. I said, I don't care, but please, I need to get rid of them, and only then you are leaving this place. I mean, I literally pleaded. So I don't know. He just told me, okay, you go. He just sent me to the other side of the house. I don't know what he did. He did something, but my house was rid of the entities. Like that night, my son slept peacefully. The next day, my older son, I actually made him go up and that go play. I didn't tell him anything. I just said go play. He came back happy playing, and everything slowly was going back to normal. So this episode, this, I mean, when everything was sorted, I just sat and I was like, what just happened? Why it happened? And what if it happens again? Because I was not only worried of myself, I was worried about my boys. What we went through was difficult. So that was the time I realized that I think I have played enough hide and seek with whatever has been happening with me since childhood. So this was like a wake up call. And I need to look into and understand this world better. That is when I actually started gathering more information and researching on psychic abilities and paranormal.
Okay.
And during that time in that journey, then I met Sarbijit, and then we got together and started working.
Let's rewind a bit. What
Okay.
attracted 6 entities to your house?
Okay. So what now there are a couple of possibilities. Now see, being a psychic, psychics are prone to the visit of entities is what I can say, because the entities know that this person can sense me more than the others.
One layer deep.
Hmm.
So what?
As in,
Like they know that you can sense them.
yeah, so So the thing is, most of the entities now, see, since he cleansed them, and I was not an investigator back then, so I never got into the depth of who these entities were. And when I asked him, he didn't tell me anything much, very honestly. So most of the entities, they need help. They need help, they need to be heard, they want someone to hear them out. So if suppose there are 100 people and they know that, okay, out of these 100 people, this person probably can sense me or see me or feel me or hear me, whatever, and probably we can get some help, they'll knock the door of that person.
Hmm. So you're saying 6 entities sense that in that house there's possibly someone with some psychic abilities?
Yes, and it was not just me, it was even my kids. Both my boys are psychics.
They've inherited it from you?
They've maintained it, I would say. I mean, everyone is, right? So it's just that they have kind of maintained it.
What about your mom or dad?
Yes, my mom was. My mom was. I mean, her dreams were so, even my dreams are so active. Her dreams were so active. And it's, for her, it was usually during the dreams that she used to get messages. So yeah, it was coming down. And but at the same time, I truly believe that everyone else is. But for me, it just stayed a little more enhanced, is what I can put it as.
Okay.
Right. And yeah, now coming to these entities, there's a very high chance they probably needed help. So that is what, so probably they never meant to harm me or harm my boys or do anything bad, they just needed to be heard. But we are so much in fear with all, with ghost spirits and everything goes, that we never look into that side. It's only when I became an investigator I realized that no, there are good entities too, who are and it's more of this side, who are needing help, who are stuck, and otherwise why will just somebody just want to come and bother you?
Okay.
Right.
Can you see things?
I'm not much of a clairvoyant, no.
Okay.
And now I'm developing. Okay, let me share this. So I was very scared to see things. So when I was developing and kind of polishing my psychic abilities, I very consciously told my masters and my higher self that let the clairvoyance be enhanced the last, because I'm actually honestly scared to see. It's now recently I've opened myself to it and I'm working on my clairvoyance.
What does a ghost look like?
See, if you ask me as a feeling that I have been getting or whatever I know with the experience as an investigator, they usually manifest as what they have lived last.
Okay. Like the spirit takes the face of the body it was in
That
last.
it was last.
Okay.
So it's not something. So if it was a good person, it'll present itself as whatever. But it's very difficult for a spirit to manifest in that entire form. It usually manifests because it needs a lot of energy to manifest. So sometimes you just see a hazy figure or like, just some kind of an apparition, which looks like something that probably it lived last. But it's very difficult for them to truly manifest. But yes, a clairvoyant will be able to see better than the others.
Okay. What is the world like from its eyes, according to you? Like
From
the spirit's eyes?
Mhm.
Because if they were drawn to your house,
Hmm.
so they're roaming around the city or
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
roaming in human society.
Yeah.
What in your house visually or intuition wise was something that the spirit spotted because of which they were drawn to your
Energy, right? Because they are also energy. So they also see us as energy. They sense our emotions. They sense our empathy. They sense our fear. They sense everything. So that's why even when we go for investigations, that's, one of the basic things that we know, that they sense fear. And that's one thing that we just can't afford to have when we are on field investigating, because that's what they will, the nasty ones I'm talking about. Because it's literally this. Okay, that's why spirituality and paranormal are so closely connected, because those demons, if I'm talking about the negative ones, those demons can actually sense your inner demons and can use your inner demons against you.
Okay. Let's break this down a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about the dark end of the spectrum. One thing I learned from the conversation with Sarba Bhai was that there is something called the electromagnetic
field. Yeah.
the electromagnetic field, and it's spiked up in places of worship. It's
Right.
spiked up, I am assuming, in the middle of nature,
Mm-hmm.
and it's spiked up in human beings who meditate a lot, who pray a lot, who have a certain amount of divinity
Hmm.
as a factor in their life.
Hmm.
What I have figured about the spirit realm is that spirits, from their eyes, probably we are the ghosts.
Yeah.
Probably
Possible.
human beings are the ghosts.
Possible.
It's some version of that. So all they can visually kind of catch is high electromagnetic fields, and they're
Fields.
drawn towards those.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So they are catching on the energy.
The reason I'm not breaking this down too scientifically for all the skeptics listening to this is because we've done that in the second episode.
Yeah,
So here
yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
free flowing
absolutely.
in the spirit
Yeah.
realm conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not going to stop and explain myself at every point.
Uh,
Moving on, you spoke about how most of these entities are actually positive and they're just trying to be heard.
Heard.
They're trying to be released, I think, because
Hmm.
whatever realm they're stuck in is extremely uncomfortable.
Right.
What I've read from scriptures, from books, is that it's sort of like perpetual thirst or hunger,
Hmm.
but a very intense thirst, intense hunger,
Right.
and they want to be relieved
Right.
of that.
Right.
People become spirits when they have an unnatural death, or when they commit suicide,
Hmm.
or if they have something extremely unfulfilled
Hmm.
from their life, and death has suddenly come to
Hmm.
them.
Hmm.
Most people pass on to the other realm, but some entities get stuck here because of whatever reason.
Right.
And now they're trying to like just get out of that sandwich between the two realms.
Right.
That's where ghosts exist.
Right.
But you're saying that while most are good, there is a small section that's nasty.
Hmm.
Are these like ghosts of murderers and psychopaths, or
See, it's like the personality of the person doesn't change after death.
Hmm.
So a good person who's lived a good life, even after death, even if they're stuck for whatever reason, one of the biggest reasons is emotional attachment for staying stuck.
if you love someone?
So if a good person is stuck because of that person is not going to become like evil, or someone you need to be scared of. Something, that person is going to stay good. The same way, if there's like a very nasty person who passes, and that person is not going to suddenly become a saint. So it's how we have amongst the living, we have a huge spectrum from very good to the nasty ones. The same goes to the other side.
I wonder what jail is like from a spirit
Oh,
perspective.
wow.
Especially if people pass away in jail.
Man, I mean, that's dense actually, and I don't know if they will be even getting the liberation, because they'll be latching on to each other probably.
The spirit realm in jail would probably be extremely thick and
Yeah.
full of spirits who want to pass on,
Definitely.
but have not, and they might be on the darker end of the spectrum because
Definitely.
they are convicted criminals.
Definitely. And it's even like, the vibrations of the person that makes you more prone to attachments, because they are, as it is, of a very low vibration because of whatever their past deeds are, and that, they are not conscious beings. So they are, as it is, prone to attachments.
Okay.
So even if there are entities around, they are, as it is, like, more vulnerable.
Okay. They can also be non-human in terms of they can be demonic entities.
Yeah, but demonic entities, like, they have never walked earth. And so if there's an entity who has passed in the jail and is lingering around, is not a demon. It's just an evil spirit. Because demons have never walked earth.
Okay. Let's talk about the evil spirits first, and then we'll talk about demons. The evil spirits don't want to leave that sandwich realm. They don't want to pass on to heaven or hell.
So many don't want to, because there was this. Okay, let me give this example. In his second episode, I think Sarbijit mentioned about this church that we had investigated.
Yeah, in Nainital.
Yes, close to Nainital in Uttarakhand. And this was, I think, one of the creepiest personal experiences for me also, because there were demonic entities. And for the first time, we experienced an entity which was a shapeshifter.
What does that mean?
Okay, let me tell you what this incident was. I think it'll explain things better. So we went for this investigation, and we entered this location, and as our basic protocols, the psychics first take the reading of the place. So I was taking the readings, Savio was taking the readings, we both went in different directions. And we both figured out that this place has very evil, demonic kind of presence, which is outside the church. But inside the church, I very strongly felt that there are innocent spirits who are kind of stuck because of these demonic presence, which is outside. They're scared to go, probably, Now, so anyways, we decide, okay, so let's go in. I think inside is a better place to investigate. So I'm not getting into those details because Sarvajit has already mentioned it in his episode. I'm telling you my side. Okay. So I was undergoing this Estes experiment where I was blindfolded. There was this white noise playing in my eye. So I was totally cut off from the physical world. And I was totally in the spirit world. Now I started getting words. They were asking questions. I couldn't hear them, so I started getting words. There were certain words coming. I was hearing music. There was a lot of things. It was a very active place. I think that's one place where I've received maximum communication and words coming through the STX experiment. So then I get this word shapeshift, and l- now when I saw the video, because this video is there on our channel, that time I saw, okay, that these guys, Sarbajit and Savio, have figured out that there is a demonic shape-shifting entity and all. But I was all plugged and, I don't know what's happening there. Now, what was happening with me was that I get this word shapeshift. Now, during the reading, when I was reading the place, the initial psychic reading time, I sensed an old lady. Okay. And this old lady was not showing me her face. She was facing back. A very weird looking. She was wearing some, long dress, and that's what I was sensing her as. And she had very uncomfortable vibes. It was kind of a demonic vibes only. So I get this word. I immediately go, my consciousness immediately goes to that lady, and I was like, wow, is she the shapeshifter? Okay, first stage. It further, my consciousness goes further back because there was something that happened to me even before we reached that location. The night prior to getting into the investigation, I got a dream. Now, my dreams are again very active. My parents visit me in my dreams, they guide me in my dreams. And I see my mom in my dream. And she was saying some things, and, a lot of things she was explaining. We were talking, and I don't remember the depth, but she didn't feel like my mom. She was dressed differently. She was wearing some two plaits with, a dress. And my mom never dressed like that. And even the feel that I was getting was different. I was like, but anyways, I was like, okay, I'll look into it later. I got too engrossed in the next day's investigation. But while during that, within that span of a minute, my consciousness went from the shapeshifter to that old lady and to back to the dream that, wow, she shapeshifted and came as my mom, presented herself as my mom even before we reached the investigation. And now why I was telling that spirituality and this is very closely connected, because see, as a healer, I'm very, very conscious of my emotions. If I trace that, okay, there is something that I'm feeling that, is making me uncomfortable, I heal out of it. One thing that I haven't healed from yet is my mom's death. It's been 2 years, but so that's exactly what this entity poked in me to bring my vibrations down so that she can overpower me. And so it was like the moment this was happening, I took back, and I was like, oh, wait, we are experiencing a shape shifting demonic entity here. I immediately raised my guards up, and I was like, I need to shield myself even more because she's trying to play with me. She tried to make me vulnerable a night prior to actually getting into the investigation. So that is how, these entities, these were, I would say, the nastiest entities that I have faced until now. Because, anyways, the investigation was done, everything was done, we wrapped up. I never shared this part of the dream with the team, I shared this with them. But something more happened. The night of the investigation, like the investigation was done, we went back, I slept. She visits again in my dream. And this time she visits as some lady. She presents herself as some lady. It was a very, very dark, detailed dream, which I very honestly don't remember now because it took me almost a month to heal out, out of it. Because if she was threatening me in that dream that she's not going to leave me, and she kept shifting, and it was so weird that I woke up screaming, and because of the nightmare, after some time I slept back and the dream continued.
Hmm.
So, so these entities definitely, yeah, where there are good ones, I would say this is one of the nastiest one that I have experienced.
I'm not going to say exactly what had happened to me. Something like this has happened to me,
Okay.
where some kind of entity was stuck on me.
Hmm.
It is extremely scary from a personal level because you know something is with you all the time.
Hmm.
And there's a way to get rid of it as well,
Yeah.
which I will let you shed light upon. But I'd like to ask you first why it targeted you and why it tried to make you vulnerable. Was it because it was feeling threatened by you and your team, or was it just for fun from its end? Like, what was the intention there?
Threatened.
It felt
Because,
threatened.
yes, definitely. It felt
It
threatened.
tries taking you on then.
Yes.
To what result? Is it trying to kill you?
No, definitely not. But probably just to bring us down because, see, when we are on field, we are in our most positive and highest versions. We are like in really high vibrations, and the entities can sense it that, we can't mess with these people. So that's why they look for, things that they can poke into to bring our vibrations down. And I think she sensed that emotion in me, and that's what she caught. And now, Ranveer, if I wouldn't have been, into so much of spirituality, inner work, I wouldn't have recognized sitting there in that estes that she is making me as, the target, or bringing me down, playing with my mind and my emotions. It's only because of that constant and, that awareness that I'm in, that I could actually save myself. Otherwise,
Okay.
I don't know what would have happened.
You guys had gone to that church to sort of clean it up, right?
No, it was more of our own research work that we had gone there for.
But how are you threatening it or harming it in any way?
See, it's sometimes just the presence of a very high vibration can cleanse the place.
What is a high vibration?
It could be a vibration that's emitting from a person. It could be a place. That's why certain people are taken to certain places, because the vibrations of that place are so high that it automatically kind of cleanses the auric field and the energy of the person.
Okay. And it wanted that murkiness, that darkness to remain in that
Probably
place.
because probably they wanted to feed on those innocent ones who were inside. Probably they felt threatened that, probably they will just release or, help these entities find light or whatever. I don't know what their threat was.
But when you say feed on something,
Hmm.
they are taking away that same electromagnetic
Yeah, they're feeding
field.
on these entities. Yeah.
It's like food for them.
Hmm.
Okay,
It is.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
And they become stronger
They,
with it.
yeah.
What do they do with the strength?
They just want to, it's like be in their form. Like they don't want to, because they are evil, right? And they want to show themselves as they are. It's like the entire world should be scared of us, or even the poor things that was stuck inside, they should be scared of us, or whatever.
Okay. It's like how, I mean, I'm giving a very weird example here,
Hmm.
but after having lots of dogs in my life, I've
Mhm.
understood that what sex is for human beings, food is for animals.
Hmm.
In terms of they probably have the same rush and enjoyment when they're eating. I
Hmm.
probably think that for entities like this, it's sapping away energy from
Yeah.
high electromagnetic field areas where it feels like a rush, it feels like it's
Like
invigorating
it.
you.
Possibly.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between male entities and female entities and childlike entities?
It's energy, right? Energy doesn't have a gender. But as I said, that they usually, are seen as what they lived in their previous life. So even when we are investigating, we ask that, is there a male figure or a male entity or a female entity? If you're a male entity, give us so and so sign. So what we mean is what they lived as last, because energy doesn't have a gender.
Okay. Like human beings in every birth can be born as a woman or a
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Okay.
roles keep changing
Okay.
and the gender keeps changing.
Okay. But there's no difference in like personality because of being a female entity or a male entity.
There
There
will be,
is.
no, based on what gender there was.
Which one do you like dealing with less?
Definitely the male.
Males are more intense. Male entities are more intense
Yeah.
because you're a woman.
Possible because they see that, probably, we can overpower her or something.
Okay. When you ask most guys
Hmm?
about what's the scariest form of a ghost that they're afraid of, they'll say like an old lady, like in Darna Zaruri
I know.
hai.
Because probably that is the picture that has been put in the mind since childhood. Ki, it's always the female entity and, the Daravna kind and the old lady with long nails or whatever. I mean, that's what's fed subconsciously. So by default, people get scared of.
But it's not like generally there are more female ghosts or more male.
No, no, no,
It's
no,
all a
no.
mix. Okay. All right. Because this is an intro episode to you, I know you have a lot more stories, but I think for this particular episode, it's become heavy enough. I will ask you some final questions on just the origins of being a psychic.
Hmm.
So you said that you began working with Sarvabhai at some point.
Yes.
I am assuming that at that point you started focusing on your meditations as well
Yes.
to enhance your abilities and to
Yes.
let them flow.
Yes.
uh, you had an urge to help with this paranormal investigation thing because of your own experience. It happened to you.
Yes.
You felt like how much trouble it was giving you and your family. You thought, okay, if I can be of help to other people,
Yes.
I will do it. So, how
Yes.
did you start enhancing your abilities?
A lot of things actually. The very first thing is I had to get rid of my past traumas because the past traumas can, as I said, they can literally block your energy channels. They can literally block your chakras. So the first thing that I had to was do a lot of inner child healing. I had to do a lot of emotional healing for myself. I had to let go of a lot of things. I had to forgive a lot of people. So that was, I think, my first step where I started healing myself. Then I started meditations, yes, different forms of meditations. I love trying things. So, trials and errors and a lot of things. Meditations played a very important role, and I would say a lot of exercise and practice because it's not just about unblocking the chakras or cleaning the energy channels. It's also about practice. Because fine, you have it. It's clear. Now what? you know so things like if I would blindfold myself, so when I know that okay, when I'm blindfolding myself and I'm actually closing my physical eyes, so my psychic eyes or the psychic vision automatically enhances. So then I try to tap into it. Okay, what is it that I can see? Or if suppose I had to visit some place which I'm going for the first time, I will just do this very small exercise where I'll note down the possible things or the possible people that I will be meeting there. I may be wrong. Doesn't really matter. This was and then I'll go in. When I go there, I'll check how much right was I. So, small, small things, right from healings to meditations to exercise, there is a lot that it takes. And I'm still continuing. It's not that it's a journey. It's like, you keep getting a better version of yourself.
Okay. Um, wow. Is there things you avoid to
Um,
sharpen these abilities?
Yeah, uh, drinking and smoking.
Okay. It's just these two things.
Mainly these two things, yeah.
People?
Okay. If I get into that depth, yes, I'm very conscious of what kind of energy I'm taking in, whether that is the information, the people, or a lot of things that I'm exposing myself to. I try to maintain it of a high vibration.
Can you look into people's minds?
People are very difficult, actually. I don't try because they are layered. It's easier to actually sense an entity because for people, it's like layers. They'll be thinking something, doing something, projecting something. I have not, very honestly, not tried that.
Are you able to recognize someone else's psychic energy? Like if someone else is psychic near
Yeah.
you, what specifically are you able to recognize?
Um, See, once you talk to a person, it's very, it kind of, it becomes very clear. The kind of awareness the person holds, the kind of openness the person holds, it's very like you are a psychic.
But a low level.
You're no, I don't think so. A low level. You can, I think you're more. I don't know. This is what I feel. You're more of a clair sentient and a clair cognizant.
Sentient is
Is
feeling.
feelings
Feeling, yes. What
clair
cognizant?
cognizant, where you just know things and you don't know how you know it. But again, like uh, if it just comes to just seeing a person and knowing whether the person, it can be tricky. As I said, people are great at shutting themselves down. So I don't trying to actually drill and dig into, and but otherwise it can be found out. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What about that experiment you were talking about outside the church?
Mm-hmm.
So, the one where you
The
cover
Estes one, yes.
Estes.
Yeah, ESTES, Estes.
I know what it is,
Hmm.
but explain it. What is an Estes experiment?
Mm-hmm.
I know that when I was much younger, this is before Facebook, when websites were a thing,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of websites used to talk about this experiment. It was an internet trend where they said that if you ever want to experience what LSD is like without taking LSD, do this. And you
Okay.
cover your eyes with like a table tennis ball, a ping pong ball cut in half. You put noise cancelling headphones and you play a certain frequency
Yeah.
of in old school televisions when you lost the signal, it would
Yeah.
just be a
The white noise. The white noise.
yeah.
Yeah.
You just play the white noise in your
Right.
ears.
Right.
But what actually happens to your mind and your senses when all this is happening?
Okay, so when I am in that experiment, so first thing that happens is that I'm totally disconnected from the outer world because my major two senses are shut.
Did I describe it correct?
Yeah.
This is how it happens.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
anything else?
Yeah, no. It's mainly these two, the eyes shut and the white noise playing in my ears.
Is it dangerous to do this alone?
Of course.
Never do it alone.
Please, no. Definitely not. Now, because we know what we are dealing with, now see, now this is something that we always tell everybody, that do not indulge in any kind of spirit communication, any kind of experiment, unless you know how to deal with it. You don't have to step into this zone unless you really know, because you're literally stepping into the world of the unknown. We don't know what kind of entities we are going to deal with or encounter. So it's better not to step in unless you have proper knowledge. So it's a big no. So while we were doing this experiment, yeah. So every time I've done an S test, the first thing that happens is I am totally shut from the external world. I can't see, I can't hear them. There have been moments where I have felt that I hope they have not left me and gone. But it's literally as if I'm teleported into the spirit world. I can not only hear them through the white noise, their voices, but because even my vision is closed, they I can sense, and I can even, they're giving me visions via my clairvoyance. They're give Okay, maybe I'll explain this in a way. So we were doing this estes in a recent, not the church one, but in Orissa, in one of our investigations. And over there, we were barely getting any words. We were barely getting any words. And I was like, I'm hardly getting any words. But these entities were not ready to talk or give words, but they were started showing me visions. So I was getting that I can see fire. I can see two kind of pyres burning. Then I could see some kind of crawly and weird looking entities. So it was like, when you can't hear, even this sense is much more enhanced, much more open. So I was even getting visuals. So it becomes like a combination of words that they are telling me and the visions that they are showing me.
But through the shh.
I hear the sound.
Okay. For example, when you're meditating very deeply, your senses go inwards. Like your sense
Right.
of hearing switches
Right.
off.
Right.
Something like that happens?
Yes, because see, even but over here, it's very much audible to my ears. I can literally hear. That is, in meditation, it's little different because that voice is more like an inner voice. It's not as if someone is literally, that also happens where you feel someone is calling your voice. That's different. But it's more of an inner thing in meditation than an external, which happens in Estes.
Okay. More about it, please. What do you hear? You hear the exact voice?
Okay, so it depends. Yeah. I can make out if it's a female voice, if it is a male voice, if it is a child's voice. Um, Other than that, there are many times that they are, especially when they are in need of help, they are literally talking over each other. So there are many sounds coming, and then I have to pick out the most, whichever is the loudest, or whichever is is easily understood, because they are literally throwing a lot of words. So I have to even use my intuitive, because I don't know what these people are asking. So I even put in my intuition, and I pick and choose words that, okay, this is it, this these are the words. So it's sometimes, like, especially in the church one, the Nainital investigation, I heard instruments. And I think that was the first time I was hearing instruments, and it was only later when I saw the video. These guys told that, and I mean, later they said, and when I was seeing the video, I realized that they were actually asking for signs that make some noise, or make some kind of a sound. So they were giving it to me as sounds of instruments.
Hmm.
And that was the first time I was hearing something like that, because never in an S test I heard tabla, or a harmonium playing, or a guitar playing. So I like, if this makes any sense, this is what I'm hearing.
Okay. Have you ever thought of the deeper science of that? Like, why does it
Still
happen?
digging into it. As I said, that this is like, it's a journey. Now, since for the first time we experienced something like a shape-shifting entity, for the first time I started hearing instruments. Now we are getting deeper and researching into what this could
No,
be.
but the Estes experiment, I'm
Huh.
saying. Like,
Okay.
what is the science of it? In terms of, I'm assuming there's a certain frequency of white noise,
Hmm.
which probably syncs you up like a radio to the frequency of their realm. I mean, this is just
Yeah.
the engineer in
So
me speaking.
probably yeah, so I'm not from the engineering background. I think Sarvajit will be better to explain this, but from what I understand, it kind of acts as a medium between the two frequencies. Like, we hold a certain frequency, we are able to catch a certain frequency, though the entities hold a totally different frequency. So this is kind of bridging a gap between the two, and that is why I'm able to hear them.
Okay. What happens if a teenager sitting at home tries this experiment? We are
No,
not encouraging it.
definitely. No, definitely not. Because see, when the entities, if there are entities around and they are seeing that someone is acknowledging them, someone is trying to communicate with them, someone is trying to actually tap into their frequencies, they will get drawn. There is a chance.
Are they drawn by knowing that you and me are talking about them?
They know.
Okay. That we're speaking about them.
They know.
That same demonic auntie knows in anything. Auntie, sorry. Sorry. But they have
They
an
know.
idea.
They know.
What about the kids watching this at home? If they are watching this kind of a podcast, are they calling those energies into their lives? Nothing like that.
No. See, the whole point is, see, that is one of our aims, to help people with the actual information, so that they can get rid of fear, because there is so much of fear, there is so much of wrong information about this field, which has been fed since childhood. Because I have seen, so many times the child being told that, don't go there, otherwise the ghost will come. Eat this, do this fast, otherwise the ghost will come. So right from there, that time, that fear of ghosts and entities has been fed in the child, right? So it's played with the subconscious mind, and where they by default get scared when it comes to something like this. So we are just trying to show people the facts of, everything is not bad. Yeah, bad does exist, but there is good also, and to present the facts in front of people. So I always, I believe that, don't let your fear overpower you.
Yeah. I'll just end this episode by saying that over the last year that we've been doing so many of these darker episodes, uh, things have happened in my life. I feel there have been episodes we haven't released
Mm-hmm.
where we recorded something with someone who was so dark, who did and said so many dark things that we just decided not to put it up on the internet.
Wow. Okay.
Things happened in my own life in this house. And somehow at the same time, a spiritual guest would get sent to me and highlight the power of meditation, highlight the power of
Yeah.
mantras, especially.
Yeah.
Mantras are not specific to Hinduism. They're in
Right.
Zoroastrianism, they're in Islam, they're in Christianity, they're in Buddhism, they're in
Yes.
Jainism.
Yes.
They're in every single faith of the world. If these things scare you, and if you feel you're being affected by these things, there is a certain power in words and mantras and
Definitely.
syllables which are of that frequency.
Yes.
So, if anything's scaring you, trust me, mantra science from any religion of the world will help you.
It's basically their faith, you know. Once you keep your faith in something, it is going to work for you.
Any signing off notes?
I would just say that rise above your fear for this one.
Okay. Thank you, Pooja. See you later. That was the episode with Pooja Vijay. This episode got a little heavy towards the end, which is why we had to stop abruptly. We actually intended on shooting a sequel episode with her right after this, but she just wasn't feeling right on that day in order to give us a second episode. And that's the true nature of these podcasts, that you go so deep with your conversation, with your questions, with your answers, that it does drain you a little bit, especially heavier conversations like this. Pooja Vijay will return on TRS. Please tell me what you thought of this episode. Please tell me what else you'd like me to ask her. And very importantly, if you have recommendations for this kind of horror genre, please let us know. This is Pooja Vijay on the Ranveer Show. Sarabjit Mohanty is going to be back very, very soon as well. Keep following us. And right under this podcast, we've linked our entire horror playlist of TRS. Make sure you check out that as well.